Coming up next, we recap every Sunday game in Week 5. The Cowboys, alive. The Bengals, not so much. And yes, more heroics from godlike kickers. All that and more. It's the flagship show, and it's coming up now.
The Heed the Call podcast. Heard you wanted points, eh? Well, here's all the points in the world.
Yes, Heed the Call, the flagship program begins now. Dan Hanzus, Marc Sessler, Conor Orr, Justin Graver on the ones and twos. Yes, all those stories seem so quaint now about what happened to scoring, because I saw plenty of points this week starting Thursday, obviously with the Kirk Cousins assaults, straight through Sunday's action. And, Mark, Week 5 Sunday was a little bit of a messy little bitch, wasn't it?
It was a messy little bitch. That's perfectly said. I think on our preview show, I feel like I bring this energy for what I want to see, and I know Connor has mentioned it too, that you're kind of rooting for like the darkest dark mirror narrative for certain teams. I just want to see how they respond. And I can think of a few that got there today. I witnessed a few of things personally that would take any fan base that consider themselves loyal and sort of say, you might want to shut this down. Not this show. You keep listening to this show, but you might want to detach your heart from the product.
Is that what you look for? That's what you want. You want people to be so crushed by their sports team that makes them reconsider their fandom? That is the most Sessler branding I've ever heard.
No, you know what it is? It's like, let's get there. Don't delay it. Don't delay what I know I can feel is coming for a lot of these teams. I think this year there's been a quickening where we're getting there. We've gotten there quicker with some teams, and I enjoy the immediacy.
Okay, I hear that. Connor, how about this? You even found this stat via NFL PR. Week 5 of the 2024 season marked the first week in NFL history with 2 100-yard defensive touchdowns in the same week, and the 7th week ever with multiple blocked field goal returns for a touchdown. Zany. Messy.
I love it because we always say, right, it's like, oh, offense is back or something's returning to football, but it's really like that first, week where everybody's just super tired and no one tackles or blocks, like everyone's just exhausted and you're just at the point where you can't handle it. And the byproduct of that is like a bunch of 100-point games, which is super awesome.
All right. Without further ado, I think it's time to go through every game that was played on Sunday, closing with Sunday Night Football at stormy Acrisure Field. I liked it better when it was Heinz. Anyway, let's get to it. The flagship show starts now. Joe Burrow said last week he had to be, quote, nearly perfect to knock off the mighty Ravens on Sunday at Paycor Stadium. Then came Sunday, a performance in which Burrow was quite literally nearly perfect. A career-best 5 touchdown passes and 392 yards passing, but a fourth-quarter interception opened the door for a Baltimore comeback and some, an inexplicable onion shortage on the Cincy sideline took the ball out of Burrow's hands in overtime, leading to a disaster and a 41-38 Ravens win. Baltimore has now won 3 straight after its 0-2 start. The Bengals are in poop up to their nipples at 1-4. I have to start at the end of this wonderful shootout that had just beautiful quarterback play. The Burrow interception aside, Burrow and Lamar Jackson played quarterback at the highest levels in this game, and they had some real help as well from their supporting casts. Big performances from the likes of Zay Flowers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. The tight ends of Baltimore finally got back in the mix. Just a great offensive showcase, if you want to look at it that way, or bad defense if you want to be a pessimist about it. It's probably a little bit of both. But I want to start at the end of this game. Burrow has his interception. Lamar gets the Ravens in field goal range. Justin Tucker, my boy, pipes one from 56 with the wind swirling a little bit to send the game into overtime. In OT, the Ravens win the toss, and they're marching. They're into Cincinnati territory. It feels like this game is going a certain way. When Jackson and his center, there's a little bit of miscommunication. Lamar lifts his eyes up. The snap hits him in the face mask. It leads to a fumble, recovery for Cincinnati. And now this is what happens. And this drives me crazy. And we're going to get to what happened in Buffalo too, guys, which was another showcase of bad coaching decisions in crunch time. 1st and 10 at the Baltimore 38 for Cincinnati. Did I mention earlier, Connor, that the quarterback for the Bengals had thrown for nearly 400 yards and 5 touchdowns to this point in this game? Did I mention that? I did. I noted it.
It's fair to reemphasize that.
Yes.
I think.
1st and 10 at the Baltimore 38. Running play to Brown, no gain. 2nd and 10 at the Baltimore 38. Running play, Brown, 3 yards. 3rd and 7 at the Baltimore 35. So we are in field goal range, especially in the modern NFL, but this is a long field goal right now. They're going to throw it now, especially with Burrow on fire. No. Running play, Brown, no gain. 4th and 7 at the Baltimore 35. Evan McPherson from 53. The snap is dropped. The kick is botched. It goes wide left. Baltimore takes over, and 2 plays later, the game is over. Derrick Henry runs around left after being shut down all game for 50-plus yards. Justin Tucker hits a gimme. Game over. How, Connor, do you not let Joe Burrow take you home there in the most important moment of your season? That's how seasons are lost, and that's why Zach Taylor maybe isn't so popular in Cincinnati.
It's especially disappointing given that you built the offense, and a lot of people that I've talked to about the Bengals offense, this is the closest thing to what Peyton Manning had when he was in the NFL, right? Joe Burrow has complete command over that, and he runs it the way that he sees it and the way that he likes to run it. At that point in the game, he's probably so comfortable with the looks that he's getting and everything that he's seeing from Baltimore's defense that he could absolutely get you at least a little bit closer to the goalposts.
I mean, the fact that Jamar Chase played the game of his life and that T. Higgins, along with him, they combined for almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and your quarterback is playing out of his mind. It's the best version of Joe Burrow. Why are we going anywhere else with this at that point? I think you're right, Dan. It's frustrating.
And I get it. And I called it in real time before it happened because I saw what he was doing. And I was like, they're not actually going to just run it 3 times in a row. And you just can't assume. I know in the year of the kicker, you start to fall into a false sense of security, but you're kicking outdoors and things can happen. And that's exactly what happened. It was not on Evan McPherson. It was a snap that was not handled well, which messed up the timing of the play. And you just made yourself a very, very difficult way to lose a game that they were winning Cincinnati by 10 points with 7 minutes to play, doing whatever they wanted to the Baltimore defense. Their own defense was struggling, and they have to figure out what's going on with that defense because that's been a problem all year. And then to find a way to lose that game, that's how seasons, I think, can be ruined. This is the type of loss. Here's Joe Burrow afterwards.
We're not a championship-level team right now. We're not. I like to think that we'll come back and improve throughout the season to get to that point. But right now we are not, and we have to get better.
Is it frustrating that we're 5 weeks in and still not at that level that you all thought it might be going into the season?
Yes.
I mean, what else can be said? And credit to Marlon Humphrey, who had the big interception to set up the game-tying field goal. And Mark, like I was saying, credit, yes, to Burrow, who played incredibly well and deserved a better fate, but credit to Lamar Jackson, who made so many great plays, including maybe the highlight play of the year on one of his touchdown passes in the second half, where when it looked like the Bengals are ready to pull away, he has a play where he drops the snap, scrambles out of trouble, dodges a couple different defenders, squirms away, and then near the sideline spots a receiver in the end zone and hits him. Just an only Lamar-type play. He just kept coming and coming and coming until they finally outlasted Cincinnati. What
I like about this Ravens team compared to previous incarnations that I somehow I struggle to believe in. Like Lamar on the sideline there after that fumble happened. They had that great replay, you're right, of him lifting his eyes in that split second where he lost the ball. And you thought, this is just another one of those games that you could point to and say they came so close. And if you're the Bengals, it's like you got into the final minutes of the game into overtime, and Derrick Henry has only had 12 carries. So you had taken away something. You know the Ravens are going to do a lot to you, and you got to put up with it. And shootout's going to be a shootout, but you got that far without Derrick Henry completely destroying you, and it's that you gave them one more chance for him to break through and do what he did, and that run, and you knew it was over, was just like, man, like it has got to be one of the more frustrating losses for the Bengals inside this AFC North situation. You're 1-4. I still believe. I don't like I'm not that worried about the record at this point. I mean, I am, but it's like, I think the way they played today, it's like they can almost beat anyone, but they keep beating themselves.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like, and I was on the board with the train of they're going to be fine, but this is the type of loss where it's like, does this defense have any answers? Can they ever get a big stop when they need it? The Bengals led by 10 points 3 times in the second half, and each time they couldn't get the stop to truly take control of the game, which, left the door open for disaster. And yeah, that 51-yard by Derrick Henry not only saved his average on the game because he had done almost nothing to that point, it also created, this is a crazy stat, so 175 yards against the Bengals. The Ravens have outrushed their opponents by at least 100 yards in all 5 games this season, according to Elias. The longest such streak by any team to start a season since 1933. So while the Ravens, even in a game where they get bottled up, Henry finally busts through, which is what makes them so dangerous to have a guy like that on their team now. And it's Burrow by himself. The Cincinnati rushing game did not have the same success. So you saw a more balanced Baltimore team, and a Baltimore team that hasn't always closed well. We know that closed big time in this game, and maybe put not the final nail into the coffin of the Cincinnati Bengals in 2024, but a big one in a load-bearing area of their coffin. So it's a tough one. Sorry about all the coffin talk, Count Markula. I know that's your corner, and I'll respect it moving forward.
No, I see where you're going with that. That's okay.
Going back to that touchdown for just one more second, the Lamar Jackson one, he stiff-armed Sam Hubbard on that play, and it wasn't long before that Sam Hubbard got into the backfield and demolished Derrick Henry for a safety. And, if you just think about, the sheer physics of that, nobody on earth can make that play other than Lamar Jackson. I really do. I think Chase Daniel said it. It was the greatest play that he's ever seen from a quarterback. I don't know if that's hyperbole. That might be one of the greatest plays I've ever seen from a quarterback.
Yeah, when Lamar is feeling it and in the zone, there's really nobody like him, and he's must-see TV. All right, let's now move to another game that came down to the final seconds. This one in Houston, Sessdog.
Bills, Texans. On Sunday down in Texas, the Bills loaded their rifle and, like Dick Cheney on a duck hunt, literally shot themselves in the foot. And I know Cheney shot someone else, but you know where I'm going with that.
Much more serious situation.
Yeah. With the game notched at 20 apiece, Buffalo gets the ball back with 32 seconds left on its own 3-yard line. What is the one thing you can't do here? You can't give the ball back to an agitated C.J. Stroud. Naturally, that's exactly what the baffling Bills did. A clearly banged-up Josh Allen, he spent time in the tent in this game, proceeds to unfurl a dangerous downfield shot to Keon Coleman. Lucky that wasn't picked or something else didn't happen there, incomplete. Then another perilous off-kilter deep shot downfield to Matt Collins. 21 seconds left. Then Allen is smashed in the end zone on another incompletion, his 8th straight at this stage, and the Bills had to punt the ball from their own end zone. With 7 seconds to work with, C.J. Stroud hits a 5-yarder to set up Ka'imi Fairborn's 59-yard game-winning kick. Holy implosion, Batgirl. Stroud was sensational early, but after losing Nico Collins to a hamstring, he struggled with the rare bad pick. He lost a fumble as Buffalo climbed back from a 17-point deficit. But Josh Allen opened a career-worst 1 for 9. He was overtly confused by this Texans defense. He finished 9 of 30. That is the lowest completion percentage in a game with 28 attempts this millennium. He was 1 of 15 on passes of 10-plus air yards. So it has been a terrible 6 days for this organization. They were lambasted on Monday night by the Ravens. I think today what I don't like is they found another way to lose. It didn't resemble that. They found another way to lose. And beyond the terrible ending, I had questions to why Allen was even out there after the massive shot that he took. Maddening day, Texans 23, Bills 20, Sean McDermott with a lot of explaining to do, Dan.
Yeah, that another really bad loss. And I had this on a secondary TV So I looked on the screen and I saw, okay, it's a tie game, and they're backed up in the shadow of their own goalpost, and they have no timeout. So obviously you're just going to run out the clock and go to overtime. What I didn't see at the time initially was that the Texans had all 3 of their timeouts. So it could put Buffalo in a tricky spot. So I understood what McDermott was thinking. He's like, I could either run it all 3 times, get stuffed, but use up their timeouts, and then punt it back, and they'll probably get the ball around midfield, and I'm in trouble. Or I try to throw the ball and get a first down or 2, and I could run out the clock, or maybe even something special happens that way. So kind of a tricky spot. But at the same time, what you're saying about Allen, and what also I'm hearing about a potential head injury that Allen may have suffered in this game that might in part explain his struggles in this game, make it pretty obvious what the right play was. And after the game, McDermott, he did fall on his own sword.
Tough situation. They're holding 3 timeouts, like I said. They got a good field goal kicker, and you go back and forth, and hey, I probably should have run it on the first play and just said, hey, where are we now? Either way, we're probably going to have to move the chains one time, right, to not give them a chance. But again, those are situations, and that's on me.
Man, Allen's head hit the turf so hard, and I think that's probably the
when was that in relation to when this happened? Was that possession or earlier?
No, much earlier in the game. You'd have to go back way, but here's what I think that's weird about it is that then the Texans turn the ball over, and Mitch Trubisky, who had been in there for one play or something, Allen comes back in the game, and for me, it just looked like, wait a minute, he went into the 10. He comes out seconds later, and I think it was Emmanuel Akko's well, they clearly just gave him smelling salts. So after the game, Allen clarified that he hurt his chest, that his chest was in deep pain. It hurt his ankle, and that they called him out for the head part of it, and he went into the tent. But it's something didn't pass the smell test here. For him to be out there that quickly, and then to look the way he did the rest of the game. I've not seen Josh Allen look that way since his earliest rookie and second year dramatics.
And it's funny because, well, not funny, but before Allen and the Bills had their huge gaffe, it was C.J. Stroud, when they were in field goal range, had a chance to kick a field goal earlier before their last possession, and Stroud has an intentional grounding call that takes them out of field goal range and forces the punt that sets all that up, right?
Yep. They had them where they wanted them. So it's, the one thing that I give the Bills credit for is, I think, man, James Cook can run the ball. They really can get more balance. I think they can continue to grow as an offense, but not with what happened with Josh Allen. I don't think he was healthy specifically last game. He didn't look healthy to me today. And so it's what do you do with this guy? Because I'm not sure we're going to be in 7 days with him either. I know he's a warrior, but it just left me really concerned because where I thought they were growing with all their new parts, this was a step back. They looked completely befuddled on offense.
I still think this is an example of the organizational discord that they went through when they were getting rid of Ken Dorsey as the offensive coordinator. It was his directive to build an offense that didn't require Josh Allen putting himself in harm's way all the time. And when it sputtered and it just didn't look right, they abandoned it. And why did the team go on a run again? Because you just let Josh Allen start running the ball again. And he hasn't been healthy towards the end of the season in any of these critical moments we're talking about this team getting over the hump. They're not going to do it if he continues to play this way, and he's always going to play that way.
And on the Texans side, we saw it last week. They went quiet in last week's game. When Nico Collins goes out, Mark, you're saying that the offense kind of dried up. This was set up. That sets up for Stephon Diggs to have his big revenge game, and he goes 6 for 82 on 8 targets. But they can't get their running game going again this week. And it's I would say that the Texans overall, now 5 games into their season, am I left a little bit wanting offensively from them? Yeah, I kind of expected them to be a little bit more dangerous than what we've seen to this point. And I would, even with the win today, they've been a little earthbound. I'm even looking at they had 29 points in week 1 since 19-7, 24, 23. They haven't been special, which is something I thought was possible entering the year. Still could be, but not there yet.
They really missed Joe Mixon. I think that if you can go back to week 1, it feels like 2 years ago, but I think that's what they were envisioning. And they got a little bit of help in the run game, but it's not the same. But I would say Stroud today, he opened 10 for 10 for 177 yards with a touchdown. That fell off, and then he had a bad interception, he had a fumble, and things just started to turn like all these games do. But with Nico Collins in there, man, he was clean out of the gate. So I guess it's like, which one of these teams can go out and play that way through an entire game? Because I feel like that's that's sort of something that's happening in every one of these affairs. Is like really hot first half, and then like the floor falls in.
And for Josh Allen, he does get an extra day. They play Monday night against the Jets at home. So I want to hear more about that, because that is, as the way the league is set up, the safety protocols, especially in light of, the Tua incident a few weeks ago and the last couple of years of Tua, and how that's put a spotlight on this. Where's the independent neurologist? Like, where's the backstory, whether this guy should have been in the game or not? Maybe we'll hear more about that as the week plays on. All right, let's keep moving. Let's go to the Bay, a game that I think everyone felt pretty confident in for the 49ers, played out a little differently than we expected. To Conor Orr we go.
Oh-ho! I'm Kyle Shanahan. And when the game hits the fourth quarter and my team's leading by 10 or more points, I'm unstoppable. 38-0. I have invented offense. No one can outthink me. It's because my Aspen casual Patagonia-style skier hats are different than yours and made of a better quality. That was true, unless you're the vicious, black-souled Cardinals. Did you know that during mating season, in the heat of their reproductive desire, the Cardinals will violently defend territory, going so far as to fight their own image in reflective surfaces? Those were the birds we got on Sunday, fearlessly led by Kyler Murray, inspired by epic trickery from Drew Petzing, and a defense that closed the door on a comeback that would have been difficult for San Francisco, given that their kicker was bowled over and injured earlier in the game. 195 rushing yards and a TD from Kyler, or 195 passing yards, and a TD from Kyler Murray. 86 yards rushing and a tutty for Kyler Murray on the ground. Marvin Harrison was quiet until a 4th and 5. At the end of the game, Kyler Murray gets pressure, taken to the ground, throws a floater to nowhere. Harrison brings it down. Cardinals win.
Ah! How we feeling tonight, Santa Clara?
Off the rails.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
Oh, my goodness. I got my dog riled up with the...
Yeah, I would imagine.
Wow.
My bad.
Unbelievable. I mean, this to me, there were a couple shocking outcomes, con man in this, and that was beautiful, by the way. But when the Niners, I felt like they were just, cruising on their way to the victory. When Jordan Mason coughs that ball up, all of a sudden, I think everyone kind of snapped to, and then the Cardinals are going the other way. And then when they get points, all I'm thinking to myself is, the Niners don't have a fucking kicker. They're going to have to score a touchdown or get within like to chip shot range. And sure enough, I mean, it never even materialized because they make a great play, knocking up a Purdy pass in the air and securing the game clinching interception. Just a stunning turn of events. And again, like as we're seeing over and over, first of all, good luck trying to get a handle on the 2024 Arizona Cardinals. My goodness. But you could say the same thing about these Niners, where things are not coming easy for this team this year. Not at all.
I will say, let's go back to the forced fumble, because that was Jesse Luketa, and I think that was his first defensive snap of the season. It was definitely his first start of the season, first time he was active this year. And he just...
I put him in more.
He just comes in like Jimmy Snuka, like from the other side of the play, full extension, and just smashes the ball, and it comes out. And it just sets all these events in motion. But throughout this game, the Cardinals were so much fun. I mean, Kyler Murray scored a 50-yard rushing touchdown on the first drive, and he pointed his finger to the air and celebrated when he just broke the line of scrimmage. That's how gone he was on that play. And then you had Cardinals have, this is wild, have not run jumbo formation once this year. And then all of a sudden, on a gotta-have-it 2-point conversion, they run it. And they run that old-school Tebow pass from Florida where it looks like he's just going to bowl the ball in, but then he pulls back and throws like a fadeaway jumper. But it's Kyler Murray. It's not Tim Tebow. Like, you would never think that, like, your 5'9" quarterback is going to run this play. And so so many, like, I'm still like fired up about this game. It was probably the most fun I've had as a football fan watching a game this year. And Tom Brady
you
had fun,
wanted
too.
to see Marvin Harrison, and you saw him make a huge play in this game, and that was your first like real time experience with him. You are right about one thing, like the Cardinals, who I think are at least flexible with their coaching staff, and Drew Petzing's like gotten a lot of hype, but today they went in and used multiple tight ends, 2 or 3, on more than half their plays. And it worked, and it's good study of the Niners because Nick Bosa generated 1 pressure in the entire game. And like that's how you keep Kyler Murray alive and thriving, because we saw that whole thing collapse under Cliff Kingsbury. It's like he was being punished, and you can't punish like a 5'9" guy with a giant head. So it's not a good idea.
No, I would never do such a thing. Yeah, it's. And the Kyler Murray, he has, I think it was a 4th and 5, was that the Harrison completion where, the game is hanging in the balance. And, for a guy that's as small as he is, let that be something for Bryce Young and any other undersized quarterback. Like, you could find a way. You could find a way to, whether it be athleticism or just being a cagey guy, like his ability to find passing lanes and get the ball up and get the ball to Harrison, keep that game alive on that important 4th down conversion. And, yeah, that run, our buddy Zumwalt, big Cardinals fan, he was clocked over 21 miles per hour there, which is obviously basically the top speed of an NFL player right now in our league.
Fastest
so
for a
to see
quarterback,
that,
Dan, in 8 years.
Yes, and very notable when this is post ACL reconstruction, Kyler Murray. So the fact that he is all the way back physically and making plays, it makes the Cardinals a real wild card. And on the Niners side, the Mason, I thought Jordan Mason has played excellent this season in Christian McCaffrey's absence, but McCaffrey's the type of guy that's a closer, and you're missing that closing element. Deebo Samuel's been very quiet this season. You're not seeing enough impact plays from him. They finally get Brandon Ayuk going in this game, Connor, but it still wasn't enough in the end. And even like Brock Purdy, they're a hard team to figure out because I'm watching this team, and I'm actually watching Purdy, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I feel like he's playing better now than I've ever seen him play in terms of his pocket movement and his confidence. But the stats don't really back that up, and obviously the way this game ended doesn't help that narrative either, or my opinion. But I'm not worried about Brock Purdy, but in general, I'm a little worried about this offense. Not being able to close this game out was pretty rough.
You want to get him to the point, right, where, because you're going to pay him $60 million a year at the end of this season. I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion, right? And you want to get him to the point before Christian McCaffrey comes back where having the greatest check down running back in NFL history is just a bonus, and he doesn't need it. And I thought he was getting close and kind of tracking there, and especially when we saw Brandon Ayuk take off in this game, it was one of those situations where it's like, okay, here we go. But they never seem to be firing on all cylinders. Like, it's a George Kittle game, so it's not a Deebo Samuel game. It's this seemed to be like one of those afternoons for them.
Crazy. And by the way, people are asking me. Everybody wants to know. Everyone's asking. I can't. Yeah, it's social media. I'm getting phone calls. People knocking on my door. They all want to know, what do I think about, Jake Moody goes out of the game, and then Mitch Wishnowsky. What is Mitch? Mitch is a fullback. Who? Oh, he's the punter. Mitch is the punter. People want to know. What I think, or what the kicker club thinks about a punter stepping in and knocking a field goal through the uprights. And I bet they think it's, bottle service for Mitch Wishnowsky. We take him into the kicker club and we celebrate him. I'll tell you what actually happens when a Mitch Wishnowsky type decides to start kicking field goals when that's not his job. Yes, it's the scene in Goodfellas when Joe Pesci thinks he's getting made. The door opens up to the quote-unquote kicker club, and all you could think is, "Oh no, no, nobody! You don't pull back the curtain and make it seem like anybody could kick field goals. That's not what this is about. The kicker, to be a place kicker, is hallowed ground, and that is something to be respected and taken seriously. So we don't take kindly to strangers doing that job as a side gig.
So
that's
can
all.
I ask you a question? Like, because there was whispers I saw that like Kyle Juszczyk is someone that they use as a kicker in a real emergency. Like, had he come in and done that, are we giving him the Pesci treatment? That's a very important, fun player.
Oh, he's getting the Pesci treatment too. Just stay out of it. Stay out of there.
Juszczyk did immediately when the 49ers kicker got ran over. He walked over Juszczyk and started kicking into the net. And they showed him kicking into the net and also like laughing about it. So I don't know like exactly what was happening there. If he just decided to independently go over and start warming up, but Juszczyk was warming up to be the kicker at that point in the game.
And then at one point I think Brady commented on it, like it was on the sideline in like an obvious field goal situation coming together, and they just show Wisniewski like just kind of like dazed and confused on the sideline, not really paying attention. He's like, shouldn't he be like kicking into the net or something?
Brady, speaking of Dan, this was his best performance, and it was Romo-esque. He was completely lost in this game, and to make
you mean in a positive
way. Like he was having fun. He like kind of threw his inhibitions to the wind. He made a great kicker point. He used to tell Steven Gostkowski to stop tackling people on kickoffs because he's like, I don't want you to hurt yourself like Jake Moody. But he all-timer, like when the Jordan Mason fumble happened, just totally like a guttural Tony Romo yell. And that's when I knew. I was like, Brady's back. He's got it. Like he knows what he's doing.
Wait, what was that? Let me hear it.
Ow! Ow! Like
he's into it, dude. He's also a closet Niners fan, so it's probably a harrowing
you're right
moment
about that.
for him.
But when you watch when you go watch like the cut-ups and you get the last couple seconds of the previous play, there's so many times that I've heard Brady just screaming, and it's not like he's finishing his sentence. He's just utterly screaming like as loud as possible, and they're going right into the next play. So enthusiastic.
I'll take a guttural scream over Jesus Christ any day of the week.
Okay.
All right, let's take a break, and we will continue on with the flagship show.
Jesus Christ!
Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? Introducing Manscaped's newest innovation, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. This game-changing tool that brings the luxury of a professional shave right into your home. Whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow, the old George Michael as I call it, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver is your go-to for precision and style every time. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code HTC for 20% off plus free shipping. Unbelievable, Mark. I mentioned the George Michael. And if there's one thing I know the ladies like is when you have the type of stubble where you could take a matchstick and it lights up the match. That's how I've gotten almost every woman, including my wife. And I feel like the Manscaper, that's what it's for me.
Yeah, that's a very that's a wise approach. I think the track record suggests that it works. And this is great technology. The 11 million men worldwide who are trusting this are the smartest 11 million men worldwide. I think it just comes down to that.
I heard you're using the Chairman Pro, and you love it because it's waterproof. Because you like to get in that shower and go to work on yourself.
It's the versatility. I can do it, whatever I want, wherever I want, and that's another place that I can just continue to, self grow, work on myself. This kind of stuff, Dan.
As I always tell you, Mark, I've noticed, and I approve. Get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code HTC at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code HTC at manscaped.com. October is here, or as we call it on Underdog, Boost-tober. That's right. Every single day, Underdog is dropping a different promo all month long. Check your app on a daily basis because, trust me, you do not want to miss out on these specials. Just download the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit for our U.S. audience only.
Dan, how much do you think the average American spends each month on subscriptions? $25? $60?
Yes, I always thought $60 was the answer.
Well, no, the real number is closer to 300.
What?
That means that even if just a couple of subscriptions fall off your radar, those recurring payments you don't even know about can really add up. This happened to me recently. I totally forgot that I was subscribed to Reader's Digest, and I have been for a long time. But thanks to Rocket Money, I'm no longer losing money because of subscriptions I forgot about. With Rocket Money, you can see all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. And we know you've got some, Dan. For any you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them with a few taps. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you, sometimes by up to 20%. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save. Then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll even deal with customer service. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/HTC. That's rocketmoney.com/HTC. rocketmoney.com/HTC.
All right, we are back. Justin, take us to Duval.
All right, Colts at Jaguars. Down in Jacksonville, the Duval natives were restless for a win. The whispers about Doug Peterson's hot butt were growing louder.
Sizzle.
The doubts about their franchise quarterback were growing doubtier. And after just one opening Colts touchdown drive, those feelings were pretty much exploding. But then the Jags answered. Trevor Lawrence uncorked a beautiful rainbow to a wide-open Brian Thomas Jr. for an 85-yard touchdown. Later in the game, Tank Bigsby ran through tacklers and sprinted 65 yards to the house to put the Jags up by 14 with just 5 minutes to go. Sighs of relief were heard throughout the state of Florida. But then, 39-year-old Joe Flacco, he was not going quietly. A 45-yard strike to Alec Pierce set up one score. A 65-yard bomb to Pierce again on the following possession tied the game. Here we go again, right? If you're Jacksonville, not so fast. Trevor Lawrence took the field looking for one final scoring drive on his birthday. And calmly, Lawrence moved his team into field goal range. He hit Christian Kirk for a key 14-yard pickup to set up rookie 6th-round kicker Cam Little, just 21 years old, his first ever go-ahead attempt, and he nailed it from 49 yards. Happy birthday, Trevor Lawrence. Here's your gift, a 37-34 victory to end the Jaguars' winless season.
I mean, Gravedigger, unbelievable. Great job.
Thanks.
That was very good. Gravedigger is more enthused about Trevor Lawrence's birthday than anyone I've ever met. I feel like we've heard about this like 4 times today. That was
That's
well
true.
done.
Justin did pull back the curtain, request, can I use the happy birthday song underneath? I was like, I don't know, man.
It's like your division rival.
Hey, man, we're just covering
Great
football
setup,
objectively.
dude. Listen,
Yeah, that's true.
This is obviously a win the Jaguars needed to have. They're entering at 0-4. If they lose this game, and if they get beat in a horrendous way, I mean, they gave up 24 points in the fourth quarter. My God, if they did not find a way in the final minutes, that is the thing that could have pushed Peterson over the edge. It was Shad Khan feeling like he had to do something. So to get this win, I know the leader in the division right now is Houston at 4-1. So obviously you got a ways to go there. But the rest of the division, it's Colts 2-3, Titans 1-3, Jaguars 1-4. You're still kind of on the fringes with this win, and most of all, you get that monkey off your back of being a winless team. So a huge victory for the Jaguars, and good for them, because I'm sure that is pretty horrible way to go through life the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the number 1 overall picks in back-to-back seasons, Trevor Lawrence and Trayvon Walker, came up huge for Jacksonville today.
That's
Lawrence,
what they need. They need their young stars to lead.
Exactly. Lawrence himself, 28 of 34, a career-high 371 yards on 10.9 yards per attempt, 2 touchdown passes.
Wow, you think it's his birthday or something, you know?
He did have one really bad interception where he's looking for Brian Thomas Jr. downfield, just threw it into double coverage. Didn't realize that I think the robber safety sort of peeled with Brian Thomas. He didn't expect him to be underneath. Good play by the defense, but he's got to see that. But other than that, I think Lawrence was pretty much a flawless performance from him. And then Trayvon Walker had a career-high 3 sacks, never had more than 2 sacks in a game. He had a very crucial strip sack that set up a end-of-half field goal for the Jags, which obviously, those 3 points mattered a lot in the end. And then when they finally kicked this field goal, I think there was 55 seconds left or so, and Joe Flacco had a chance to go get, a game-tying field goal, and he was dealing. Flacco himself had over 300. Flacco had a huge day, actually. I'll put a pin in that. We'll get to Flacco in a second. Trayvon Walker had the walk-off game-ending sack on that potential comeback drive. So those two guys, the Jags had been lacking in the pass rush department a lot this season. Josh Hines-Allen got in on a sack. Josh Hines-Allen recovered the fumble that Trayvon Walker forced. So a big day for these two guys, and that is, like you said, exactly what they needed.
Whoa, wait a second. Breaking news. Hit it. Breaking news. Holy shit. We all know Brian Thomas is having a big rookie year, right? He had the 85-yard touchdown catch. Guy's fast as hell. He ran the 40 in 4.33 in Indy. Per Next Gen Stats, Brian Thomas Jr. reached a top speed of 22.15 miles per hour on that 85-yarder. That is the fastest speed of any ball carrier this season and the second fastest in the past 4 years. Mark, we talked with Steve Smith last week about Brian Thompson, how he has really stood out. They might have a big-time star in their hands in this kid. He hit 22. I don't even want to hear anybody. Kyler Murray, I'll give you a little. You're a quarterback. Nobody talk 21 anymore. It's 22 or keep your goddamn mouth shut moving forward.
It's been done. It's been done.
Stats.
You're right. We've got proof it can be done. For me, you're not going to play the Colts defense every week. I think that's part of the equation here. But you want to have hope. If you're going to go to London, which is essentially your if not your first home, your second home, for multiple weeks in a row, it's like you want to roll in with some good energy, because I know Peterson after the game was just like, oh, now he's joking around with reporters. Like, ones that he was ready to slice their neck a week ago. Now he's back in a good place. But the Colts are different with Flacco, because it's like they would have gotten wiped. They could have gotten wiped in another scenario, but you can't do that to Joe Flacco.
Yeah, but let's talk
too
Flacco.
Powerful.
Well, yeah, the stats obviously speak very highly of his performance. What did you see?
I thought he was on fire for most of this game. He started off 7 of 7 for 75 yards on the opening drive. He was dealing all over the field. He was firing deep shots. Alec Pierce came up with multiple deep catches that, I mentioned in the recap there. Michael Pittman, strangely absent, but from his targets, I guess. But Joe Flacco and Josh Downs have this connection that we saw it last week. I mentioned it last week because I had the Colts last week too, and just all the third down conversions from Flacco to Downs. And this week it wasn't so much the third down conversions. It was just he is his reliable safety blanket guy. He knows where he's going to be, and that's the guy that he keeps going to. And Flacco finished this game 359 yards, 3 touchdowns, 33 of 44. And he also had an incredible 31-yard scramble, or maybe 21-yard scramble.
It was his best run he's had in a decade.
It was insane, and they even were joking on the broadcast because Matt Ryan talked about recently that he didn't have his longest scramble until he was with the Colts at the very, very end of his career, and they were joking oh, we got to look up what's Joe Flacco's longest run because this might be it. But he looked, I said this to you guys, but he looked so old and yet so spry at the same time. It looked like he was running in slow motion, but the defense wasn't catching him. It was insane.
Yeah, and it's crazy that he's not the guy that the Browns can turn to, but they decided to move away from him. And now all I'm thinking is I just wish he had somewhere he could be the starter, because they're going to put Connor. They're going to put Richardson back in when he's ready to return because he's the future. But Flacco is obviously someone who is worthy of a job right now, and I like his general attitude. They always cut back to Flacco after whether a big completion or that scramble. He's always doing that kind of proud dad shrug, after after dad hits the back-to-back threes in the driveway, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, having fun, and everyone's like amazed by him, and he's just like, yeah, I don't know how I'm doing this, but I am. I mean, he's been in the zone now for like a year straight.
I loved Shane Steichen called a heck of a game, by the way. And before I get to my point, I just want to say that like some of the stuff that you have to do in order to make a Joe Flacco offense work is wild. Like there was one motion they did with Josh Downs where it was like he ran in front of Joe Flacco and then was going to do an orbit motion behind him, but then faked it and then went backwards, back around the backside, and then started sprinting the other way. And you're just trying to confuse the defense at all since your quarterback is kind of immobile. But they ran that throwback play, and a lot of times quarterbacks are involved in the throwback, and like you can just see Joe Flacco like standing there in the middle of like the fracas, like basically with his arms folded, just like, I'm not gonna fucking touch this, just let them go. So I love everything about Joe Flacco. This team is awesome. They're just so much fun to watch on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and they lost, but it was an entertaining loss. One more point before we move on. What do you got, Justin?
Yes, quickly, Colts starting right guard Will Fries was taken to the hospital with a tibia injury. There was a long moment where he was down on the field and they brought the card out, and I would expect that his season is probably over. Undrafted free agent rookie took his place, a guy by the name of Dalton Tucker. So thrown right into the fire, and I didn't watch closely. I'll have to rewatch to see if that's where the Trayvon Walker was able to be. I know Trayvon Walker beat Braden Smith around the outside for the game-ending sack, but I wonder if this had some... Flacco did take 4 sacks. You mentioned he's not that mobile, but not having a starting right guard who was playing really well definitely hurts. And one other thing just on the Jags as a whole, I feel like looking forward, like this was sort of a complete team win for them, which... Obviously, when you're struggling, you're 0-4, you need all pieces to come together. And the defense did struggle. They allowed Flacco to go off huge, but the pass rush, which had been lacking, came up big in this game, which was big for them. The running game in the first half was terrible. At halftime, they had 11 carries for 24 yards, but then they really got Tank Bigsby going. He had that 65-yard touchdown. He also had another touchdown run, a 19-yard run, where he just like ran through the face of Nick Cross to get into the end zone. And that was set up by a Devin Duvernay punt return that put them at the 19-yard line. So all these pieces for Jacksonville, offense, defense, special teams, making plays together. Like, yeah, the defense struggled overall. They give up 34 points. You're not going to win a ton of games in this league giving up 34 points a week. But when you can come up with the timely plays, the strip sacks and the game-ending sacks and the punt returns that set up touchdowns,
all right, I got you, Justin.
That's how you get a complimentary football win.
For one day, Justin, the Jaguars were perfect.
They weren't perfect, but they were pretty good.
They got the W. They're off the schneid. Let's hop on the plane and head to jolly old England. Show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I wanna go to bed. The Jets made me wake up at 6 a.m. to watch their season go dead. Vikings 23, Jets 17 from the hot toddy. The Vikings 5-0. The Jets now 2-3 and searching for it. This is a game in which the Minnesota defense, which has been a big story around this team, maybe even bigger or more important, I should say, than what Sam Darnold's given them because of Brian Flores' unit's ability to scramble up quarterbacks, and Aaron Rodgers is just the most recent example. Rodgers threw 3 interceptions, which this guy's played for a million years. He's only done that like 6 times. He had never thrown 2 interceptions in the first quarter before. I mean, are these stats? I'm reading these stats. I'm like, are these real stats? But it really speaks to Rodgers' greatness in his career, and also perhaps 2 things. The Vikings' greatness on defense so far this year, and maybe some signs that Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback who is showing his age at 40 years old. So to the Jets' credit, they dig themselves out of a hole. Minnesota gets out to a 10-0 lead in the first quarter. This has been a recurring theme for the Jets, really under the entire Saleh era. Slow starts, offense in a slumber, defense kind of finding its footing. So it's 10-0 with the Andrew Van Ginkel again. He's gotten both New York teams on pick sixes now in the first half of this year. 10-0. The Jets get a late touchdown to close the first half and get within 17-7. And then New York's defense takes over and really makes Sam Darnold work for everything. Darnold had his worst game of the year so far. Quite frankly, he looked like the Sam Darnold of the Jets years. 14 for 31, 179 yards, 1 interception. Should have been 2, but Sauce Gardner, who had a dreadful game, dropped a gimme that bounced right into his breadbasket in the end zone, which led to a Minnesota touchdown in the second quarter. So Darnold was pretty much completely negated. He did have a couple big completions, setting up the field goal that gave Minnesota some breathing room in the fourth quarter. But it was the Vikings defense that found a way in the end. Aaron Rodgers throws his third interception, Mark, on a deep route down the right side. Once again, I don't know if it's a miscommunication or just a bad ball, but he underthrows Mike Williams a few plays after, missing Garrett Wilson on a stop and go. That would have been a go-ahead touchdown in the final minute. So a lot of frustration with this offense not being on the same page, and the result is another loss for the Jets and a long plane ride home with a banged-up quarterback at 40 years old.
Well, the most consistent thing happening in the first month of the football season is Brian Flores and that defense turning the opposing offense into a question-laden, problematic situation for the coaches, for the quarterback, for the fans. And I mean, I'll always throw a little bit of the London side into this because as human beings, you're just going to respond differently, per player to player. But it slow starts with the Jets, and it's like, I'm waiting to find out what they think they are on offense. I wrote a note at one point, and then they worked their way out of it a little bit. It's like, this is the least creative offense that I'm watching on a week-to-week basis. And we talked about it on Thursday. It's your so-called stars aren't showing up. You start slow, punt, interception, downs, punt, and you finish slow, punt. There was a touchdown, but then there's that pick. It's just like Aaron Rodgers is under too much duress. He's crawling around on the ground again. I think that's the biggest emerging concern. It's weeks in a row where it's like, look, this guy is a good quarterback. We're not questioning that. He's throwing the ball well earlier in the season, but I mean, he's taking so much punishment. I think it was you on Thursday that it was a war cry to get the ground game going. They had 36 yards rushing. So when you start this slow and your players aren't making plays and you're playing a higher schematically intelligent group of coaches than you have, you're kind of doomed. And it's like, it makes you, I don't know, like I wasn't that high on the Jets even a week ago, but I'm like, I just don't see what they think they see, if they think they see anything at this point.
It's interesting. The way that Nathaniel Hackett runs the offense with Aaron Rodgers and the way that they had it set up in Green Bay, you basically ran other plays with the purpose of setting up, this knockout blow or this big kind of knife punch at the end of the game. And that double move by Garrett Wilson, Dan, was, I think, that play that they intended to have break open. But then even after that, you had Mike Williams, and Aaron Rodgers took the blame for it, which I think is a positive thing. He called it an underthrow, but he threw it so early that I think what he was expecting was Mike Williams to turn towards the ball and use his body position to get in front of the quarterback there. But Mike Williams never turned and looked. And there's a lot of, you can hear from a lot of Packers fans that are like, we've seen this a million times where the new guy doesn't turn and look when Aaron Rodgers wants that ball. To the point where, this is not a hot take, I think at this point, you almost need Devontae Adams because it's, learning Aaron Rodgers' offense is like learning Mandarin, on the ground in China for the first time that you're there. And these guys just aren't on the same page as him right now. And how do you make up for that,
Yeah, I think that I'm glad you mentioned Devontae Adams because it feels like a trade of Adams is imminent out of Las Vegas, and now it's just a matter, is it going to be the Jets? Is it going to be the Saints? Is it going to be, another team? This game is a billboard where it's like, get this guy to the Meadowlands because Allen Lazard is the nominal number 2 wide receiver on this team. And he's had some moments and touchdowns this season, but he also had 3 drops today, including one in the end zone. We know the Garrett Wilson, although Wilson finally and Rodgers had a big day together. I think he was he was targeted over 20 times in this game, and he turned those targets into
101
22
yards.
targets, which is the most, I think, since, ironically or coincidentally, Devontae Adams a couple of years with the Jets. 13 for 101 and a touchdown, but that costly miscommunication that Connor mentioned near the end of the game, or the overthrow. Devontae Adams would be a perfect fit. Mike Williams was pretty much invisible in this game, and this was an offense that was supposed to drive through the running game, and the running game does not exist. And I don't know what that's about, but it just has not gotten going all year. So that is not necessarily the Minnesota defense, because that's been every team the Jets have played this year have shut down the running game. And that's putting so much stress on a 40-year-old quarterback who's taken too many hits, and he's not going to last much longer if they continue to not make the offense. They went through a stretch in this game. Rodgers throws 54 passes in this game. There's a point where I think he threw around 20 straight passes in the second half, and it's like they have to, because of the running game. It's getting to the point. I'm sitting and watching a game with my dad, and it's like it's getting to the point where you're just giving up a down every time you hand the ball off. It's either a no gain or a loss, and it's kind of a nightmare situation, and it's tough to watch. And for all the negatives, I'll say that the Jets go to Buffalo next Monday night with a chance to play for first place in the AFC East, because it's a weird division, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a team that's taking on a lot of water. In some ways they are.
You and your dad are not having great shared experiences this football season. That's one takeaway.
Yeah, here's a quick story before we go to break. So this game, my parents are flying out and flew back to JFK today. Their flight left at 11:30. You know how parents are. They want to get to the airport very early. So they want to leave at 9:30. I live right near LAX. So we leave with about 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and I have my phone in the front seat. My dad's in the passenger seat. I'm driving. My mom's in the back seat. And we're watching the last 4 minutes, and I'm sitting in LAX in front of the Delta terminal with my dad watching this final doom drive. And there's like at one point a bus pulls behind me because I just have my hazards on and just lays into the horn. And I'm like thinking, and then Rodgers throws the pick, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, I've been in so many shitty situations, like just feeling terribly watching the Jets blow like major moments that would otherwise be like celebratory scenarios, like just finding ways to blow games. I've never done one while sitting in the busiest airport in America where everyone around me hates me. And that's how my trip with my parents ended, with Rodgers throws the pick, my dad disgusted getting out of the car, hugging my parents, and then sending them back to New York. You couldn't. Hey man, at least I have the Yankees.
There is. I want to read this one tweet, because these games, and it was kind of delightful just waking up and just turning the TV on. Like I just this time just lied in bed, but like it's 6:30 in the morning. I don't feel like a real person at that point. And then this tweet just came up. It said it's by Sneaky Joe. I don't know who that is. The Jets almost look like a team whose QB skipped practice to go to do drugs in Egypt. It's like, it's a little mean, it's a little Piliani, but I'm like, all right, it works for me.
It's fine, because I understand, and I've always said on the show, like, making fun of how embarrassing the Jets are is something I wish I could do, but I'm a Jets fan, so I can only watch everyone else enjoy this shit. But like, they went out of their way this summer. He took more practice reps than he ever did in his career. They tried to work on all this chemistry stuff. Just didn't happen. And here we are now heading toward the middle of October by the time their next game, still wondering if the offense will ever get on the same page. Vikings 5-0 hitting their bye week. And the only question there is Aaron Jones goes out with a hip injury. Keep an eye on that. And Darnold, that's a bad game, and he wasn't so hot last week, even though he threw 3 touchdowns. Let's keep an eye and see where the trajectory of his season goes on. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Heed the Call with Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler is on Underdog, so why not start playing on Underdog today? Underdog now has streaks. You can enter for $1, build up a streak, and win as much as 1,000 times your entry. Plus, you can cash your streak out anytime. So download and play on the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, that's us, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only.
All right, we are back. Sessdog, take us to Foxborough.
Largely an eyesore, an oozing pus-filled wound, 2 sinking ships crashing into each other, and even the icebergs don't care. we're the worst offense in the league. No, we're the worst offense in the league. No, no, we're clearly the worst. Don't be silly. We're the worst. That's how this game felt for long stretches of time. Sometimes these games just make Sunday feel long, and this game kind of had that energy to it. Miami has completely fallen apart. I don't even care about some of the stuff they did in this game. There are gaffes everywhere. In the first half alone, this is what the high-flying Miami Dolphins of a season ago have turned into. A Tyler Huntley pick by Christian Gonzalez. Bad throw, just a bad job. Jason Sanders bonking a 41-yard field goal off the crossbar in a time when kickers were hitting like 61-yarders with their eyes closed. A block punt down 7-3. The next drive on 3rd and 3 from the Patriots 25. A snap shoots over Tyler Huntley's head. It's not even enjoyable or humorous to watch, forcing a punt. Later on, a botched snap blowing up another Sanders field goal attempt. There was holder issues today, and this was another one of those. It was just so frustrating to watch it. Now, the Dolphins got their act together in the second half. 2 field goals and a 95-yard touchdown march down the stretch. That helped, but so did a massive meltdown by New England, which is that's sort of redundant at this point. But trailing by 5, Jacoby Brissett and friends had a 1st and 10 at the Miami 15 with a minute plus in the game. Right, bang, a string of incompletions, and they fizzle out on 4th down. But they force Miami to punt. Brissett gets the ball back and ultimately throws the ball deep over the middle to Hunter Henry with no timeouts left, and the game ends. Dolphins 15, Patriots 10. I can assure you this is not the kind of game one dreams of when they pursue a career in sports. It just frustrated me that, you're winging the ball over the middle of the field, and the game's just, you don't see that happen too often. They were in a tough spot, but it's like, man, I don't know. I don't think switching to May is the answer for New England at this point. They're just pretty non-functional. They ran the ball well, but that's about all they can do.
Yeah, this feels like maybe rock bottom for the Patriots. If you can't, and to think how it started, you didn't even know the Bengals weren't that good. But so when you win on the road in Week 1, and remember Robert Kraft, famous words like now my expectations are higher. He said in the locker room they've lost 4 straight. And it has not been pretty. They were penalized 12 times for 104 yards in this game. These games are in Foxborough, where we all got used to them just dominating for decades. And now they are, I think, on the longest losing streak of any team at home in the league. So you have no home field advantage. And I guess my question would be, why wouldn't you put in Drake May at this point? What's the case for not playing him at this point? It's a developmental season.
Well, I guess the cupboard is so bare that I'd feel like we've all, if you root for a bad team, you've seen first round picks lose their confidence, be poorly coached. I don't think they're specifically well coached on offense to begin with, and there's really no security blanket to throw the ball to. And if they're not running the ball well, and if they run up against the Vikings or something, I don't know if there is a huge upside to putting them in that environment this early, or versus what we've seen examples of guys being incubated for a little bit longer, and there's a healthiness to that.
My one concern would be if you're Gerard Mayo, you have to artfully play the timing of it, because if you let Drake sit this entire season and he doesn't get his ass kicked along with everybody else, there is that you weren't part of this deal. But at when is it the right time? Because if you put him in early, you're going to force him to develop some seriously bad habits.
Yeah, that's the balance. And on the Miami side, they head into their bye now, and Snoop Huntley is the quarterback, and I suppose he'll be the quarterback coming out of the bye. Everything around Tua is very hazy right now, and there's a story that came out during the week that the NFL is saying we're not involved in any way in the decision whether or not or when or if Tua comes back on the field. I don't believe that, first of all. I think the NFL has it probably internally a big stake in what's going on with Tua, because it's the biggest story around head injuries, brain injuries, and quarterbacks and everything else. So they have their finger on the scale, I think, one way or the other would be my guess. But they also lose another player to a concussion in this game. It's Devon Achane. So it's just, and we'll see how serious that is, but just tough situation, tough sledding, and both these teams are impossible to watch right now. So I don't know. You have anything else, Mark, before we move on?
No, I just think it's just we don't want to keep picking on Mike McDaniel for not doing what other coaches so-called have done to fix it. I think Huntley he's more functional. He's got more experience, but it's just crazy to see how they got everyone a little more involved, but how much everyone disappears without Tua, and it makes me appreciate how he fits into that office, maybe versus a different offense. He just seems to do exactly what you need, and it's crazy to have another human in there, and it looks night and day.
Let's head to Landover, where we had two teams with quarterbacks in totally different places. Conor Orr, take it away.
Ooh.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a franchise quarterback who, when you post stuff like his birthday on social media, people don't respond, ick, or you shouldn't post stuff like this. Jaden Daniels played like the quarterback Cleveland thought it was getting when it inked Deshaun to a 5-year, $230 million contract. Daniels was artfully dodging defenders. He escaped danger in the pocket and slung a 66-yard pass to Terry McLaurin on an MFing 3rd and 13. He continued to defy the expectations normally bestowed upon rookie passers. Guys, he's not only on a crash course with Rookie of the Year, but MVP. Like, he is playing that well. Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson was sacked 7 times, extending his lead among QBs. The Browns have the worst offense in terms of yards per play 5 weeks into the season since the 2018 Buffalo Bills, the 2 worst quarterbacks of the new Browns history since 2000 in terms of EPA through 5 weeks. Deshaun Watson this year and Deshaun Watson last year. Take your jersey and shove it.
A total disaster. Whoa. 34-13. Did you say that?
I didn't say that. I probably should have said the score. Yeah, it was a...
Commanders 34, Browns 13, and we are living... And we'll get to the Browns mess in a second, but we're living in a world now where you can say, and it's funny because last year it was the number 2 pick, C.J. Stroud, that we started having this conversation out of nowhere. You could say with Jaden Daniels at the controls that the Commanders could have the best offense in the NFL right now. Like, that's a real thing you can say.
It's super cool, too, because this is one thing that stood out to me that was not like in the box score or the stat sheet. There was this moment where Zach Ertz caught a ball, and it was, like, punched out, and it was ruled a fumble on the field. And so Ertz is hot. He's kind of, like, screaming. He's intense. Daniels comes over, puts his hand on his chest. He goes, everything's cool. Don't worry about it. And gets him set, gets him cooled down, and on the next play goes right back to him. This guy's a decade older than him, and beyond all the incredible plays that he made, and there was like 15 of them in this game, it's these little things, and that's why people love him, and I think that's why they're playing so well for him.
And the Washington defense is not a big-time defense. That might be the last thing to become a true contender in the NFC. That defense is going to have to come up a little bit. 3rd worst EPA in the league entering this game, and yet the Browns for the 5th straight time this year did not score more than 18 points in a game. They went 0 for 12 in their 3rd down attempts with Deshaun Watson playing in this game, and generally continue to be totally rudderless. Here after the game is Kevin Stefanski, who is now being asked every week and every Sunday whether he is going to make a QB change.
Yeah, we're not changing quarterbacks. We need to play better. I need to coach better, and that's really what it is.
Let's talk about the play that everybody was talking about in this game. It's a 4th down. Mark, it's a 4th down, and it's a situation where clearly Stefanski wants to go for it, but there's some type of miscommunication between the coach and the quarterback, or something the quarterback saw, and he kind of starts just wandering off the field, and Stefanski is completely befuddled, clearly, by his reaction. And up in the booth, and Fox, Greg Olsen is absolutely pissed off watching the quarterback behave the way he was. Do we have Olsen's reaction, by the way?
Oh my God, Kevin Stefanski has to be sick.
You saw the look in his eye when he saw Watson coming to the sideline.
What do we make of that scene?
I mean, to me, like, wandering is the right word for it. Someone wandering without any direction off the field. That's what I saw. It's like, first I watched it without any sort of sound or anything, and just like the body language of this person in this experience. And Kevin Stefanski is not the most like emotional person. He's got a nice kind of even keel to him. That's been the case. I've never seen him look at any of Cleveland's quarterbacks through all these ups and downs with the way he looked at Deshaun Watson in that moment, the fury. And it's like this team averages fewer points per game than the 1-15 Browns from 2016. They average fewer points per game than the 0-16 Browns from 2017. It takes work effort and time to be this bad. You have to go out of your way to be this dysfunctional. And I read this incredible thing from Sam Sherman of Established Running, wrote, watching Jaden Daniels and Deshaun Watson go head-to-head is fascinating. Daniels plays a lot like Watson, except he's faster, smarter, stronger, more accurate, less creepy, more elusive. His teammates don't hate him, and his team's fans don't wish a lawsuit negates his contract.
Yeah. What's the background there, Connor, on that play? There was something going on there.
There's 12 men on the field, and I think that ultimately Stefanski was probably more mad at his assistants on that play, but I think everyone just kind of had like a fuck it attitude at this point. And you're right. You bring up demeanor and attitude. Deshaun Watson was like walloped out of bounds during this game, and there was like a minor scuffle where some of the Browns offensive linemen got up and they were, shoving, like kind of your requisite thing that you do. But I was thinking in my head, if that was Jaden Daniels, like somebody would have came flying off the top ropes with like a chainsaw. And it just doesn't, Kevin Stefanski mentioned that he talked to everybody in the locker room. They're all in agreement that this is the right course of action. I just don't know if that's necessarily the case. Yes, the offensive line's playing bad. There's a lot of nuance to all these sacks. I wouldn't put them all on Deshaun by any stretch, but man, like anything's got to be better than this.
Washington is now averaging 31 points per game this season. The last 4 weeks in particular, when things really took off, 33.8 points, nearly 410 yards per game. It's a crazy thing to watch now, and they're becoming appointment television. And before we move on, I just want to apologize. Hashtag Justice for Benetti. That's Jason Benetti. We talked about it on the Thursday show, or was it the Patreon show? It was the Thursday show. I didn't know who Jason Benetti was. I did know who he was, and many people on Twitter made me aware that not only did I know who Benetti was, I had a week or two earlier called out an amazing play he had made because he's the voice of the Detroit Tigers. Do we have that? Then when the Tigers are going on their big march to a playoff spot, here's Benetti with that call.
2-2. Win again! A city that doesn't care about the odds has a baseball team to match.
How can you not be romantic about baseball? Benetti, I apologize, Mr. Benetti. Great job, and I'm sure you did. I'm sure you killed it on the football call as well. Let's move on. Everybody was fired up about it, and I was like, you know what? You're right. You're right. Put some respect on Benetti's name.
Look at you, though. You're owning. You're taking ownership over the whole thing because I think that people are now learning. Wait a minute, that's who you are, Dan. You would step right in and take.
I think
ownership.
that's the big takeaway here.
Yeah,
you're right.
Big takeaway. Yeah.
All right, let's head to Chicago. What's the best way to help a searching rookie quarterback find himself at the sport's highest level? Here's an idea. Let him play the Carolina Panthers, whose defense is made up of a collection of radio contest winners, hitchhikers who couldn't find anyone to pick them up, mall Santas killing time until December 1st, and background extras from the Charlotte Civic Center's production of Bye Bye Birdie. Caleb Williams lit up the visiting Panthers for 304 yards and 2 scores in a 36-10 wipeout at Soldier Field. The Bears will head to London next week with a winning record. They're also undefeated at Soldier Field, 3-0. This might be working after all. And I'm so happy for Caleb Williams watching this game because it has not been easy. I'm sure it's been tough on him. Not only the process of assimilating into the NFL and the growing pains that are natural. The guy that you spent the entire pre-draft process being connected to, the guy we just talked about, just lighting the NFL on fire, and you have the Bears fans looking over their shoulder and sideways glancing at all those highlights. You want to see progress, and you really are. And this was the biggest one yet for him. And yes, it was in jest, obviously, but it's not that far off. The Panthers, before the season, we weren't thinking they were going to have a big defense. Now they've lost so many key players to injury that they are just, they're a wounded duck, basically. So Williams did what a quarterback that has superior weapons and a good natural skill set should do, which is eat. and he did. He went. He threw for. Like I said, over 300 yards. He was pristine in the way he managed the game. His deep passing, which was a major problem earlier in the season. In fact, from weeks 1 to 4, this via ESPN, Williams was 5 of 29 with 3 interceptions of passes of at least 15 air yards. That put him at the bottom of the NFL for qualified passers. In this game, 4 for 4, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns on deep passes. And that DJ Moore connection, and to twist the knife on Panthers fans a little bit more, it was DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, the 2 guys at the center of the trade that led to Bryce Young being the number 1 overall pick for the Panthers, the Bryce Young who we actually saw in this game, being key contributors. So things are looking up for the Bears, and the Panthers are now come down to earth after that post-glowing Ginger Man bump a couple weeks back.
There's this one play, and it was an incompletion, but I was kind of just, you're watching a bunch of games at once. And Caleb Williams is in the pocket, then deep in the pocket, and then evading, I think 3 or 4 would-be sacks, and then escapes even further and gets the pass off. And it's like, these are the things that no matter what is happening athletically, he's going to give it to you. And I think the next time around he completes the pass. But this is a huge step forward, and I think probably a big sigh of relief because you put up 400-plus yards of offense. I don't care if it's the Panthers or whatever. It's just like it's progress, all these parts. This was the team we said no rookie quarterback is in a better position to thrive right away because of the pieces around him, and that just hadn't looked that way previously, and now it does. Like, they're 3-2. I mean, this is a big development for Caleb Williams.
They look like a real football team, and their defense really balled out in this game as well. They gave Andy Dalton all sorts of fits in this game, really punished him, got after him all throughout the game, pressured him throughout. So you have that side of the ball cooking in this game, and with the Panthers, it then becomes now the question of, all right, so Dalton, who was, like I said, he was pressured on 20 of his 41 dropbacks. He's taken a beating. The big plays that he was making initially have gone away, and he's looking very much like a guy, what he is now, which is a journeyman veteran quarterback who could, light you up in a spot, but ultimately is kind of a progress stopper. Do you turn it over to Bryce Young? He comes in at the end of this game and gets some work, so now that's a decision that Dave Canales has to make, whether he wants to think about going back. Speaking of Canales, here he was on Caleb Williams, and Williams did a great job evading pressure throughout this game and making plays with his arm and his legs. Here's Canales.
I just thought he did a fantastic job extending plays. We had him dead to rights a couple times. He wiggled out of great rushes. Great pressure on him. We had things covered, live looking at it, and he extended the play and found completions.
Functional football in Chicago, and that's overdue. All right. Anybody have a thought on this one before we move on?
Someone punched the mini fridge. That's all. There was like a fight.
Oh,
Eric Kramer Jr.
Yeah,
he got punched.
The football player.
And I'm like, you can't do that. You can't hit the mini fridge.
Can't do that.
What was his response?
There was a little
the mini fridge
little brouhaha, got a little hot.
Nobody wins. When you punch the mini fridge always wins. You might leave a little dent, but it's going to leave a lot more in you. Put it that way. That's just a lesson.
That firsthand. That's why I still have a broken nose.
Gravy, you're up. Let's go to SoFi.
Packers at Rams, also known as Matt LaFleur against Sean McVay. LaFleur traveling back to the house of his mentor and friend, looking to get Jordan Love's first win of the season. It was Green Bay jumping out to an early lead with an unreal throw from Love to Jaden Reed, who was surrounded by Rams defenders, yet still hauled in the 55-yard pass, pinpoint dime dropped by Jordan Love, which set up Green Bay's first score. The Rams fired back with a barrage of pressure on the young signal caller. They didn't get a lot of pressure throughout this game, but when they did, it was very effective. And that's when Jordan Love pulled, I can only describe it as a Will Levis. He was being pulled down in the end zone, trying to avoid a safety, sort of just sidearm slings the ball right into the stomach of a Rams defender who walked it into the end zone for 6 points and a Rams lead. But just as those turnovers propelled the Rams to their first half lead, it was the turnovers of their own that were their undoing. back-to-back Xavier McKinney takeaways, first off a Kyren Williams fumble, followed by a Matt Stafford interception, led to back-to-back Tucker Kraft touchdowns. The Rams did make a desperate comeback attempt. They drove down the field with ease to cut the lead down to one score, but ultimately they came up short, falling at home 24-19.
So is this more of the same, Justin, with the Rams here, where it's like, sometimes you just need somebody to step up and make a play, and they're missing their key guys, and maybe that changes after the bye, but firepower-wise, that seems to be a continued issue here.
Yeah, I think that was the case. Kyren Williams had one of his better games of the season, ran for over 100 yards, had the touchdown. He did have a lost fumble running up the middle, got peanut punched out on that play, which the turnovers really killed him, and Stafford did, I think, everything he could do, but trying to fire downfield with these receivers who aren't as talented at creating separation, aren't as great at going up and making acrobatic catches, don't probably have that same chemistry that he developed with Cooper Kupp and last year developed with Puka Nacua. I think that, the Rams just don't have enough firepower on offense to keep up with teams like Green Bay, and I thought their defense did a nice job stepping. It was a weird game because it seemed like the Packers, both teams, they traded punts to start, 3-and-outs to start. The Packers hit a huge shot play to go down and score, but then their offense kind of died for a while, and then it was reignited by this 66-yard touchdown. Tucker Kraft stiff-arming defenders out of his way, running down the sideline to the end zone. And then the Rams on the very next possession turn it over again, leads to another Packers score. So without those two huge turnovers by the Rams, who were moving the ball on the Rams' second drive. They drove all the way down the field, got it into and goal territory, and stalled out, went for it on 4th and goal from, I think, the 3-yard line, didn't convert, and it was just like one of those days where too many miscues, too many situational miscues, and some big timely plays by Packers players got them to win. Like, I don't think Jordan Love played particularly great. I don't think really anyone in this game played particularly great. It was just kind of one of those games. It was a weird game.
Are we back to a place where, like, with Jordan Love, because he closed the season last year so strong, he gets injured, so maybe you're shaking that off, but, like, the pick six, it's not just that. Like, that was ridiculous. I mean, no doubt about it. But, what I kept reading and watching, and there was a lot of just sloppy Packers play. And I know Romeo Doubs, he was suspended by the team, and probably a weird week there, but, like, is Love, like, he seems to have more like, work to do than I thought he did coming into the season.
I think that's probably true, and like he misses on throws at a higher rate than I think you would like, and this has been like a thing all season. Like if you look at these Twitter nerds put out those plot charts that have like quarterback accurate on target percentage and EPA per pass and all yada yada. Like Love has been near the bottom of the accuracy charts all season long, and you see it in this game too. Like him and Dontavian Wicks, like everyone was projecting Dontavian Wicks to have a huge breakout game, and he was totally quiet in this one. But that's because him and Love were just like a hair off on a few of these throws where he's open and Love just like barely outshoots the grasp of Wicks, or it bounces at his feet here and there, or he underthrows him and it's an interception towards the end of the game. Like these were the things that were plaguing the Packers. I'm actually not sure if that was an interception. My memory is a little foggy now. But yeah, I do think Jordan Love, and then he makes these plays. And these were the plays he made at Utah State where you're like, if he can just stop doing this, like the would-be safety turned into a pick six, then he can be great because his upside is extreme. It's tremendous. He has all the arm talent in the world. But then to see him at this stage of his career, he's already got the contract, and he's still making that boneheaded play. Like, you either got to eat the safety there or dirt the ball. You cannot, and which maybe would be a safety if it's running. But yeah, you're trying to make a play where there's no play to be made.
And he was locked in, obviously, in the back end of last season through the playoffs. Didn't he have a long stretch without even an interception? So we've seen him play, spotless football. It's in him. It's just a matter of maybe reining it in a little bit. Two little nugs before we move on here. Romeo Doubs, yeah, that's a weird situation. I think it was Jay Glazer reported on the Fox pregame show this morning. He just went AWOL for a couple practices, and they were wondering, is it tied to him not seeing the ball enough? But then the Packers popped the hood and looked at the targets to the other receivers, and it's not like he was getting frozen out of the offense. So they were kind of mystified. So that's something to keep an eye on. Jaden Reed, who's emerged as their number one, he became just the sixth player in NFL history to put up 400 receiving yards and 100 rushing yards in his first 5 games. And I think we mentioned Xavier McKinney, 5 interceptions in his first 5 games as a Packer. That has only happened 2 other times since 1940. So
yeah, and it's not like he had a 3-interception game in that stretch. He's had 1 interception in all 5 games this year, which is pretty crazy. To correct myself, Love did not throw an interception underthrowing Dontavian Wicks, but it was like 3 minutes left in the game with a 5-point lead, 3rd and 10. And for some reason, the Packers are throwing deep on this play. It's like, just run a little bit more clock or try to do something safe to get the first down, like a schemed up screen or something. They go deep, and that's what really gave the Rams life with just over 3 minutes left, but they couldn't put a drive together.
All right, so the Rams are 1-4. They put themselves in another hole this year. I think they won 7 of 8 last year to close. They're going to have to do something similar to get back into the NFC race. Let's move to Seattle, a game that we thought was going to be an easy victory for the Seahawks. I don't know if it turned out that way, Sessdog. I love this song. I love this song. This is one of my favorites. That's all. Congratulations, Mark. You got it.
No, I feel lucky.
Here it comes. Ready?
Yeah.
And then key change.
We could just lay out and let you do the whole song.
It's just like it's Mozart. All right, go ahead.
Well, are we going to go Ewing theory on Malik Neighbors? No, because we don't take edibles until after the show. But the Giants played their best game, minus their star rookie, and with Devin Singletary out of the lineup. Wideout Darius Slayton and rookie Tyrone Tracy combined for 250-plus yards. Daniel Jones, it's the best game I've seen him play in a long time. It's never going to be perfect, but he threw with authority, crisp, at times almost erotic. And this Giants defense, 7 sacks, roughing up Geno Smith, 500-plus yards versus the Lions. But Seattle's first red zone play today came in the final 3 minutes of regulation. They had 2 yards rushing at half. Their best play was a 202-yard fumble recovery touchdown by Seattle's Rayshon Jenkins on the first drive of the game. The Giants had gone almost 100 yards on themselves on that drive, and then the guy just picks up the ball and returns it the other way. So the score isn't exactly what it looks like. But I want to say...
What was the score?
I will provide the score for you if you'd like.
At some point, yes.
It is 29-20 Giants. I usually put that at the end.
I know. Go ahead.
I get there. But... you totally throw me off here. Let's see. Here's the thing. If you add it all up, this was a 3-point game with a 2-minute warning. And Geno gets the ball back. They only need a field goal for overtime. He immediately races 32 yards, best run of the day, to the Giants' 34. They cannot punch in the touchdown, but you've got Jason Myers, very reliable, lining up for a 47-yard field goal to tie the game. And then it happens. Isaiah Simmons hops the line, blocks the kick, and Bryce Ford-Wheaton, who's never had an NFL touch, raises 60 yards for the touchdown. Giants 29, Seahawks 20. I think Brian Daboll needed this, Daniel Jones needed this, and you didn't even need Mr. Neighbors.
I mean, what a bad look for the Seahawks. Come back to us. You're at home. You got a Giants team that's, let's be honest, they're a middling team at best. They don't have the player that as a rookie was setting every record in terms of targets. Like Brian Daboll had decided that guy's the offense, and now he disappears. And we got to give credit to Daboll, right, for being finding a way. And Daniel Jones, although, dude, you're gross. Erotic performance by Daniel Jones, but
I wouldn't say I'm describing him as that, but some of his throws had a poetic nature to them.
No, you said erotic, not poetic.
What, you got sex addiction? You got a problem with sex? You addicted to sex? A sex addiction or something?
But I have a ton of Giants fans back east, and one of my buddies, Mark, Mark with a K, particularly fatalist as a sports fan, just losing his mind about the Giants. I can't believe they're going to blow this. Geno has that long scramble to get into Giants territory, and it looks like a foregone conclusion that they're going to tie the game and then inevitably win in overtime. And to jump the play to Simmons, to jump the line, block the kick. I never know what's a penalty and what's not with that play, but I guess as long as you block it, you're cool. And he blocked it and ran it all the way back on the scoop and score. So just a dramatic win for a Giants team. You don't have to squint. You do have to squint, but they could be atop the NFC East right now if a couple of things went their way. They've been in every game pretty much, right?
The thing I really love about them, and it's kind of like what happened to Seattle, was that it reminds me a lot of these teams when their good players are playing the way they should, but their defense especially, I think against certain lines and getting certain protections, They really become dominant. Dexter Lawrence had 3 sacks. They ended multiple drives where I was like, is Geno Smith going to get up off the turf here? Like, he looks like he's been destroyed physically. And that happened like 4 or 5 times in this game. And I've seen this with Seattle a number of times where they're getting credited for sticking with the run, and they are, but like they have had these first halves where the running game and like Kenneth Walker, I think they had 2 yards rushing at half off 2 attempts. So they do get away from it, and they got into a bad game script and all that business. But it's like in other weeks, they've found their way back in with the ground game, and that just they did end up with 100+ yards, and it got a little spicy at the end. But that's an imbalance you got to work on, because that's not a great situation for Geno Smith too. He is a good quarterback. He continues. He'll make plays. The Seahawks are going to make all these games interesting, but I'm holding off on like the Mike McDonald like think pieces for a little bit, because they looked a little half-baked today, and they got outclassed by the talent of the Giants. They don't have their best 2 players. They don't have their best wide receiver or the starting running back. Didn't matter.
That game against the Commanders looks a lot different now, where they held Jaden Daniels in check for the most of the game and only lost because their kicker pulled his hamstring.
Seahawks allow 175 rushing yards to the Giants, and the Seahawks have been really beat up on defense, but this was a healthier version of the Seahawks against a banged-up Giants team, and now they got to go play the Niners on a short week, and it's like, again, the way the NFL schedule makers work, they will say, here's a cookie. Eat the cookie. If you don't eat the cookie, guess what? You're going to get banged the next week and find all of a sudden be in a crisis point in terms of your season, potentially, because you didn't want to eat the cookie. You were given the cookie.
Metaphor, like, eat the cookie or you're going to get banged.
It's like, eat the cookie or else. You know, it's like, I demand you to eat the cookie.
Because they played.
Any other comments on this game, Marc Sessler?
Well, they did lose Uchenna Nwosu, so they aren't as healthy as they need to be. And like Rick Woolen left the game multiple times. Exactly, but that's why the schedule comes into play. It's you played Monday, you go home and get your butt kicked against the Giants, which is like you're saying, like it's a cookie with cyanide in it, and then you got to play Thursday. It's like you're not healthy and you're stacking these games so quickly. Like the NFL can want that, but like if you're Seattle's coaching staff, it's like, come on here.
Tyrone Tracy, 18 for 129.
He looked great. He's a rookie. He looked really good, and that's why I kind of think with the Giants they keep pulling me back in, because it's like, if you can get the Giants to do what they did today, eat without their star player, like, and Daniel Jones plays this way, like, they can beat teams. But then it disappears, Connor, for 2 weeks. You know them better than anyone.
It does. I will say, though, this is probably outside of those first few wins that Dable had as the coach and that playoff win, this is probably the biggest win of his Giants career. Needed this one.
Speaking of Dable,
it was big.
Like, one thing, Wan'Dale Robinson, when you go 1 for 4 in the game and had a minimal role, to say the least, in a big G-Man victory, you know, maybe put down the phone. Let's check out this footage of Wan'Dale from the locker room after the game.
Oh, no, sir.
Translate that, Mark.
Oh, what did he yell at him? It's stop posting that shit. Stop posting that shit.
Dable said that?
Yeah. You can sort of see him, if you especially go watch, like, you can see him just like coming into frame, and then Wan'Dale looks like, here it is.
Oh, no, sir.
Oh, yes, sir.
And, you know, he comes in like the dad, and then Wan'Dale's face at the end is like, he looks like he got caught doing like the worst thing. So
you know what his face was? His face was when I tell the boys, hey, boys, 10 more minutes, PS5, and then you got to be done. And then I give them 15, and I come downstairs, and Harry's face, he sees me, and I see the panic flash over his face. That was Wan'Dale Robinson's face. Like, you know who could Instagram Live or whatever the fuck? Tyrone can do it after 18 for 129. Danny Dimes can do it, 23 for 34, 257 and 2. Darius can do it, 8 for 122 and a touch. You know, Isaiah Simmons, go for it, bro, after blocking the field goal attempt. Wan'Dale, 1 for 4. Not going to cut it.
Bad drop, too, in that game.
And that was his rushing stats. I'll give him. He did. You know, he had a touchdown.
He had a touchdown. He wasn't. He was.
I'm sorry, Wan'Dale Robinson. Maybe you did deserve to Instagram stream it.
I mean.
Oh, no, sir.
No, sir.
That's so bad. Sorry. Poor guy. All right, let's take a break, and then we'll wrap things up. Heed the Call with Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler is on Underdog, so why not start playing on Underdog today? There are NFL and college football discounts dropping every week, so don't miss out. Download and play on the Underdog app, sign up with code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Make the most of this NFL season by playing along on Underdog for our U.S. audience only. All right, we're back. Two more. Let's head to Colorado. Beautiful state. Denver. Gorgeous. You know, there was a world where the Denver Broncos were supposed to royally suck this year. Jaunty. And everyone would have been laughing at Sean Payton, which in fairness is a pretty fun thing to do. But something happened on the way to Loserville in Denver. A legitimately menacing defense has coalesced behind all-world cornerback Patrick Surtain. And that kid QB has started to find some of that swag we heard about across those 789 college starts. The Raiders and their pop gun attack were no match for Peyton's gang in a 34-18 win for the home team at Mile High. The victory snapped an 8-game Raiders winning streak over their hated rival. Something's cooking at 52-80. Baby. Bo Nix played really well today. I mean, I had an up-close view of the Denver defense against the Jets last week. That Denver defense has players on it at different levels, and Surtain absolutely should be at the top of any list when you're talking about Defensive Player of the Year candidates. In this game, he had the game-changing pick six. He had a second interception later in the game. He's just playing at such a high level and impacting the team in so many ways. But what you got from Bo Nix in this game is something that you could really get excited about if you're a Broncos fan, because he is showing increasing amounts of confidence in this offense. He had a really good stat line. His final stats, 19 for 27, 206, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, passer rating over 117. Those stats have been even better if not for one of the more horrendous touchdown drops you'll see all season from Franklin, who dropped I think it was a 60-yard bomb perfectly placed in his hands. And it was after that drive stalled, after the horrendous Franklin drop, that you got this great little sideline showdown. And the Broncos had the game in hand already. And yet something Sean Payton said ticked off Bo Nix, and they started going back and forth in an animated manner on the sideline until Nix walks off. And after the game, naturally, Sean Payton was asked about it. Here's what he said.
It's part of the deal. Listen, last year, all of a sudden, it's just, there's still a little bit of Ferris Bueller in this player that we got to get rid of. All right, talking about Bo, and I love him to death. And so sometimes it's my love language.
What does that mean? Like he's faking an illness.
I was thinking about that.
Trying to to not go to school. I don't.
No, I think he's like
a kind of almost like
what the hell is even that?
I think there was a little bit of like a chill daddy chill vibe to what Nix was giving off towards his coach. I think Ferris Bueller would be kind of a rascal,
and someone who doesn't I wouldn't say doesn't respect their elders, but believes they can kind of operate without the elders being in control of anything.
Right. That has a bit of a winking look at authority and the idea of like what his boundaries are versus what someone else in his place would be. I wouldn't, if I'm paid, and I guess not to read too much into it, I wouldn't coach that out of him. Ferris Bueller was fucking awesome, and he ruled Chicago. I mean, so let's calm down about that. Like, that's part of what makes him interesting to me, and seeing him go at Peyton, who's kind of maybe legendary is strong, but like one of the iconic coaches, maybe iconic is strong, one of the most famous coaches of his era. It shows again that he's comfortable in the offense and comfortable in his place on this team. So, I mean, if I'm a Broncos fan, the season started in a really troubling way where, you know, the kid was out there against big defenses on the road and it was not going well. But what we saw, not so much last week, because obviously the statistics were awful for Nix, historically so, halfway through that Jets game and the bad weather. But he did lead them on the touchdown drive to beat the Jets. And this game, the ball was coming out of his hands beautifully, big time throws throughout, played with control, and then the defense did the rest of the work.
You start to look back on a schedule, and the Jets game up was terrible weather, and the Jets are not overly impressive. But to stomp the Bucs the way they did, 26-7, Denver, their defense is number one in EPA per play, and that was coming into this week. That's not going to drastically change. It's one of the great things you can have if you're Bo Nix and Sean Payton is a defense that's not. Remember those Saints years where the defense was just getting its butt kicked on a week-to-week basis and putting the offense into this thing where Drew Brees needed to be perfect. Well, you can't deal with all that. It's this is a pretty complete team, and you kind of look back on how they finished last season. They just became a complete team down the stretch and won 7 of 9 games. So it's a bit of an arrow up on Sean Payton to be here after this seemed like one of the more boring, blasé teams in the league with a quarterback that I didn't know I could even trust. And it's okay, I don't mind where we are today.
I think you're right, and I'm thinking about the way this felt a few weeks ago, and it felt like the slam dunk contest, and everyone was getting ready to do their windmills and their 360s and just kind of laugh at this pompous old coach making all this money. And he's quietly now built something here. And I think the Denver defense, and maybe I just missed the boat on this, but that to me is one of the biggest surprise elements of the young season in the AFC is how they are really kicking ass. And this game it started out in a totally different way as we kind of pivot from their defense and towards the Raiders side of things with this game could have been 17-3. The Raiders were going in for a touchdown. They're up 10-3, and Gardner Minshew, who gets benched eventually in this game, airmails what should have been a touchdown pass, and that's the first Surtain pick. He goes the other way. So instead of 17-3, it's 10-10, and from that point on, it was an absolute dominance on behalf of the Denver defense. In fact, Minshew, after he threw that pick six, before that he was 9 for 9 for 115 and a TD. After the pick six, 5 possessions, 20 plays, 38 yards, another interception, and then he gets benched. Here is Antonio Pierce after the game about whether Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell is his quarterback going forward.
What are you going to do at quarterback? Will AOC be starting next week?
I don't know. I haven't answered that one yet.
And, Mark, we've done this long enough. That's typically coach speak for, the change is coming. And I've wondered about Pierce's stomach for Minshew and his brand of football. And after that interception, it felt like just a matter of time. And sure enough, he's on the bench. Not that O'Connell played any better, really, but at the same time, you could see the writing on the wall for Minshew, and maybe this turns into a little bit of a ping pong between these two guys the rest of the way.
I mean, I think that seems like one of the more predictable outcomes for this team. Even if we were to look back in June, they're both going to play. And I just find it interesting because I came out of last year higher on Antonio Pierce than you because I thought he really brought that team together, and they seemed to play with zeal for him. And now you've got a situation where you're trading your star wide receiver. That thing went kind of south, and you don't really seem to like Gardner Minshew, which is, I would say most people seem to like Gardner Minshew. And you're going to go back and forth. That's more my
theory, in fairness, that he personally dislikes him.
I know it's your theory, but
I don't think he likes him as a player, though, either.
But the results seem to be there. So it's kind of just I'm watching this Raiders team. I'm not sure exactly what the plan is or what they're attempting here. They do have the coolest tight end duo in the entire league right now. For Bowers to be playing the way he is, nice draft pick. That worked. That is working.
All right, so you got something, but I think Adams is going to be an X-Raider by the time we do the show next week. And by the way, again, shout out to Bo Nix, who also ran for a touchdown in this game and completed passes to 11 different receivers, which is a Denver Broncos record, I read. So
it's weird.
Things arrow up for the Broncos here. And I had a couple positive tweets about the Broncos during this game, and a bunch of Denver fans came out of the woodwork. Oh, you're finally going to say something nice about the Broncos? I don't know. I mean, it's not my fault that the Broncos have been unwatchable really since Super Bowl 50. It's my fault that I didn't think Drew Lock was a good quarterback back in the day. It's no. Now you got some juice here, and let's see if they can build on it. Next week they get the Chargers riding a 3-game winning streak to Sunday Night Football. A long day of professional football came to a close on Sunday night in Pittsburgh, and it was Dak Prescott teaming up with CeeDee Lamb, no, Jalen Tolbert for a 4th down touchdown strike from 4 yards out. The difference in a 20-17 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Really, Mark, I don't know, kind of a stunning ending to the game because the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot so many times in the game that you just had a feeling they would do it one more time. And in fact, Dak did throw. He threw a bad interception in the 4th quarter, and you thought that, ultimately the Steelers would find a way and TJ Watt might make one more big play or Dak might make one more big mistake. And yet the Cowboys dodged the bullets and find a way to get over 500 and get a huge road win in primetime.
I mean, it kind of felt like the most Steelers-ish game that one could dream up on a day like this. But then also Dallas, because Dallas, they're working through a lot. And the red zone interception, the red zone fumble, the fact that you've got a later on interception by Dak. You had the Rico Dowdle jump at the goal line where Landon Roberts knocks it out, and they're lucky that Dak jumps on that. So it's like little things at the end, but they had to overcome so much. And, you just get a sense that the CeeDee Lamb part of this is slightly TNT explosives, if depending on where this all goes. But they've got other players that are stepping up. I just thought that Dak tonight had to work through so much. They had a lot of injuries. They lost their left tackle. And so to come out of here, and it wasn't pretty, but to come out of Pittsburgh at, it's 1 a.m. right now, that's going to be a drunken crowd. It's going to be probably a pretty fired up crowd. You get out of town with this kind of win, and you got the Lions coming up next on your bye week. So you're kind of cheating life, as Damashek would say, with this result tonight.
Oh, that's not nice. On the night where the Pittsburgh Steelers blow one at home to cite Sheck. Wow. Twisting the knife, Sestog.
I did not do that intentionally.
One too many anti-Browns tweets from Damashek. I see it's come through with some payback in a big spot.
Well, hold on. I did not do that intentionally, and I tend to agree with his critique of the Browns at this point.
Yeah, so we'll get to the CeeDee Lamb side of it because it's a little funky at this point and strange. But one thing that really jumped out to me in this game was a very strange performance from Dak Prescott in the sense that I thought he was excellent for 85% of the game, but that 15% contained all those different mistakes that just had you scratching your head, and it just felt like, a guy, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week, a guy forcing it at times, a guy trying to make something happen when it's not there. I think he was pretty high up there on the list, Gravedigger, if I recall, on the list of turnover-worthy plays entering Week 5, and he'll continue to climb that summit that you don't want to climb after this game. But when it came down to it, it still feels like a guy, if I'm a Cowboys fan, that I trust to make the big plays, and that's exactly what he did on that final drive, from the completions to different receivers that were not CeeDee Lamb to keep the drive going, the go-ahead touchdown drive, to the patience of finding Tolbert, to diving on that loose ball and having the awareness to save that game, because that would have been an absolute crusher if the game ends the way it does with Rico Dowdle fumbling that ball. And that would have been, it's funny, and that's the funny thing about sports, man, is how everything changes if that ball bounces away from Dak and it's recovered by the Steelers defender who was right there waiting to jump on the ball, because now we get to talk about, instead of Rico Dowdle going down in infamy for a great, costly fumble in recent franchise history, we look at it the other way. It's like, wow, the Cowboys had a running game. For the first time all season, they had a running game, and it was Dowdle who was the anchor of that attack, not Ezekiel Elliott, who's continuing to kind of fade into the background of this offense. Dowdle, 20 for 87 in this game, a long of 13, the longest run by any running back on the Cowboys this year. And it just goes to show you, if you could have that balance, then Dak does what Dak does. All right, now this offense is starting to make it look more like itself. The one thing that doesn't look like itself is the CeeDee Lamb side of things. Can you pull that up, Justin? The sideline shot after Dak throws really a terrible interception where the players were not on the same page, wide receiver and quarterback. And I lost 10 minutes, Mark, just trying to decipher what CeeDee Lamb said to his quarterback. Did you figure it out?
Well, not as definitively as Chris Collinsworth, but I think Connor suggested to us that it was somebody's fault. The other thing it looks like it could be is subpar throw, subpar Dak. I just tried to do that with the video. Right
yeah,
there.
I kind of see that. And it was a subpar throw, and it was a low moment for Dak, but that is also connects back to, overall, a really strange season between Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, because as we know, last year they were one of the more unstoppable quarterback-wide receiver duos we've seen, certainly since we've done this show, Mark, where CD was just going absolutely nuts week after week for 2 months. And it seemed like maybe they got things back on the same page last week, and then he got off to a fast start in this game. And then he disappeared. And then after that incident, maybe targeted twice. And it's just so strange, this offense, and not to dwell on this because the Cowboys got it done in the end. But for the last 3 quarters of this game, CD was almost an afterthought in the offense. He was either used as a diversion or just ignored entirely. Does that have anything to do with these guys not maybe being on good terms? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I'm sure there'll be plenty of discourse about that. Would have been more, though, Mark, if they didn't win the game. So that helps calm that down a little bit, too. But it's a thing, I think.
I think it's fair to think it's a thing because it is all about chemistry, and it's about stuff that we don't know about. And, we spent the last, season and a half speculating about Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and these aren't the two. They're all personalities, so the situation is not the same. But this you go back to Terrell Owens and people like when things just get a little too crazy, the quarterback wide receiver relationship can fall apart. It's also, I think, probably born out of just natural frustration. CeeDee Lamb knows he's one of the greatest wide receivers of of this era right now, and he's not being used the way he wants. You look at EPA, for instance. He was in this fantastic season last year at a .55, and right now he's 0.09. It's 45 points lower than 0.45 points lower than anything else he's ever experienced with Dak. So they're technically, from a metrics angle, it looks to us this way behavior-wise. It looks to us in big moments the connection right now is not there.
And yet they still found a way in this game. So they find a way. Despite Dak and CD still being in another world, despite the fact that they had no Micah Parsons, no DeMarcus Lawrence, and let's give it up for a guy who we've gotten on and everybody's gotten on, Mike Zimmer, the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, who's obviously gotten off to a shaky start during what's, maybe in fairness that we should give these teams that have new coordinators a little bit of time to figure some things out. So to be able to, and I know the Pittsburgh Steelers don't have an explosive offense, but to be able to go in and play at this level, missing your best players, it's really notable. Justin Fields is held to under 5 yards per attempt. Their running game, the Steelers' running game, was held to 3.5 yards a carry on 26 rushes. They give up the touchdown late to Freiermuth that looked like it might be, the stomach punch loss where they can't get the last stop. But overall, a very good job by Dallas in difficult circumstances in a shorthanded situation.
Yeah, you take Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence out of there, and then they lose Marshawn Nealand, one of their rookie edges as well. It's just a math game at some point. You're down too many people, and you can't do what you want to do and what they plan to do. And I can even think on the flip side, when Nick Herbig went out for the Steelers, and he has really grown into a very important player for them, and Watt was off the field for a bit, that's when Dallas started to roll down. So it makes what Dallas did on their defense, missing these guys, that much more impressive. And it is the Steelers. We're not talking about the greatest show on turf or anything here, but you're in Pittsburgh and you stop them the way you did with all these guys out. I think that's the part of this that you can take away. Like, what's sustainable? What do we believe in? And that's something I do believe in with the Cowboys.
Final thought. Again, I'm going to give it up to Tolbert because 2 plays before the touchdown, Dak short hops a pass in the back of the end zone. I think we never really got any details, but it looked to me that it either skipped or just smoked him in his fingers. And if anybody's ever been hit with the fingers with a football or any type of ball where you get them bent back or, just in an otherwise unnatural position as a result of the force of the ball, it is as painful as it gets. Now imagine it's Dak Prescott throwing the ball probably like 80 miles an hour or whatever. He's in so much pain that he can't go on for the next play, but a timeout eventually gets him back on the field, and he's the one that makes the play. And he ran a really good route also. Ben Solak pointed this out on Twitter, and then I went back and watched it. He works his way across the field, Tolbert, and then wisely levels out the route that take him into the end zone. So when he catches it, it's already touchdown. If he catches it at the 2 and gets dragged down, they lose, Titan Super. Ooh, sorry, Justin. In a Titan Super Bowl manner, getting dragged down at the 1 yard line. Instead, he is in the end zone, and the Cowboys win the football game. So, a great victory for Dallas, a team that I don't think anybody is sold on the Cowboys yet. But to get your season back on track and to now improve to 3-0 away from Jerry World, they have a little juice back in the year. So, Cowboys fans get to sleep well. I'll sleep well as well, Mark. I mean, this was a lot of football. This was a 6 a.m. wake-up call for the London games and then a weather-related delay for Sunday Night Football. Listen, this isn't factory work, but that was a long day of football, and I'm glad that we took it to the finish line. Without Conor, by the way, we should note that Conor didn't just, walk away. It was so late on the East Coast, we said Conor will take it from here because that's the type of guys we are.
Yeah, that's sort of inhumane. There are child labor laws, and the child inside of us should have a labor law on some level too. And so that was for Conor. The one thing I wanted to ask you real quick, because I think this is the second time I've noticed this on either TNF or SNF. But what is going on with the ref's mic? Do you is this just my television? I couldn't hear a single thing he said the entire time, and it's
I don't know, man. Yes, I didn't notice that.
This is the conversation we need to be having an hour and 50 minutes into the pod after we started at 6 a.m. today.
Wait,
yes.
is it was it just my
Mark,
television?
Mark, I have a drop for you.
I think Justin has a point, Mark.
One quick second.
Oh, good job, Justin.
There's no sound.
So here's the irony of Justin getting after Mark for dragging out the end of the show, and then we sit for 44 seconds waiting for a drop. What do you think about that, Mark?
Well, I think it's ironic. That would be the
It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it.
This better be a good drop. This better be incredible.
Why is the sound not fucking working now? For real? Seriously.
Now he's losing it. We're not taking this out of the show.
That one works, but this one doesn't work? This one straight up doesn't work. Is there no sound?
Think
on
Justin's
this
okay, Mark? Or it seems like he might be going.
I don't
crazy.
know.
I got it. I fucked up the drop, but here's.
He's giving himself more work with the bleeps.
Drop.
It's kind of a strange question, but okay.
For that.
That whole process was for that. I don't know why this isn't on anyone else's radar.
I just couldn't right now, Mark. I couldn't possibly care less.
I'm going to dive in deep into this, and I'll report back on Tuesday, okay?
Yeah, it is
or
the
even
good
tomorrow
news.
Night.
We'll be back. Actually, not even Tuesday, Mark. We'll be back tonight. If you're on the East Coast, that counts.
That's true.
Tomorrow night, Monday Night Football, the final game of the week. Of course, a tilt between the New Orleans Saints and Kansas City Chiefs. We'll have a full recap and then all the news connected to this long Sunday of NFL action. So thank you to everyone for listening. And until next time, watch out for those ref mics and heed the call.